All right, welcome back. So now let's talk about query builder in Laravel. I know that there is one more relationship type of relationship, which is basically I am not covering yet. We will cover those in when we are basically working with our projects. So that is basically called the polymorphic relationships, and I will deeply explain everything once we start the project and once we are at that phase where we need to basically use the polymorphic relationships. Then I will explain you how we can use the polymorphic relationships, what are those, and how we can integrate them in the Laravel. Okay, for now let's have a little bit introduction of query builder. What is a query builder in Laravel? So far what we have learned is basically we learned how we can actually grab the data from the database using the Eloquent relationships, which is basically ORM. Okay, so now it's time to basically fetch the data from the database using the query builder. And for that, let's actually open our web.php. And inside that I am going to create a new route, and that route would be let's say query builder. Okay, now here we are actually getting the users by using the Eloquent relationship model. Okay, so I'm going to fetch the posts now. So first, how we can fetch is basically we can use post model, and we can attach the all here. And now if I dump and die, sorry, if I dd the posts and go to the query builder section, before that make sure that we spin our application. So we have to just basically serve the application so that the application is basically viewable. So php artisan serve. Here we can now see all of our posts from the database. Right now they are like 6019 posts, and obviously that's the correct figure. But obviously this is basically how we display the data by using the ORM methods. Now it's time to basically fetch the data by using the query builder. So what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to remove that, and let's create a variable. So I will say db, and inside the db I will use table. So basically with this table I'm going to put the name of the table. So just to keep this thing in mind, if you have a prefix with the table, so you don't need to specify the prefix here. The Laravel will automatically grab that for you. But for that, if you do have a prefix before that, what you need to do is basically you need to go to your env files, and you have to define the db underscore prefix here. Right now we do not have the db prefix. So if you go to the database here, which is basically the database.php file, and if I open that and I search for prefix, there we go. Now here you can see that we do have a prefix here. So all you need to do is basically if you want to define a prefix, you have to basically get that prefix by using the env, the key name, and the default if you have any, and then get that prefix from this env file. So Laravel will basically automatically get that prefix for you, so you don't need to get that. Okay, now what will happen if I dd the posts here? Let's see. Now if I reload the page, here you can see that we now have a complete query builder instance. Now this contains all of the information that comes with the query builder, starting from the connection, then we have columns, aggregate methods, then we have operators, and then order, limit, and stuff like that. Everything that is basically like we have in the query builder, which is here is an example of joins as well. So this comes with that information. But where is our data? So in order to get the data, what we need to do is basically we need to use or call the get function. Now if we change that method, and now if I reload, now you can see that I have properly got the items, which are basically 6019 posts here. Okay, Now you might be wondering how we can actually do the pagination here, and it's quite really simple. All we need to do is basically we can use the limit here, and by the limit we can apply like, okay, 20, get the 20 posts from the post table. And if I reload the page, now you can see we have now an array of 20 posts. What about the offset? The second column is basically the offset, and we can start it from the 0, or we can start it from any offset that we want. Additionally, you can also chain the offset method as well. So this offset method will basically accept the offset. So startingly, like this will start from 0, 10, or whatever you want to give that. Now, um, let's say you want to get the latest 20 posts in our Eloquent relationships. So what we were doing is basically we were using the latest method. Here what we need to do is basically we need to chain the method called order by, and within the order by we need to specify the column, which is basically the ID, and then we need to specify the direction. So I will say descending. Okay, so if I now reload the page, now I will basically get the records from the database, which are basically the latest first or the last one. So here you can see that the ID is basically 6019, which is basically our last ID in the column. So if I now basically set this to as primary descending, here you can see that this is the last record in our database. So there are a lot of other options which you can chain with the query builder. For an instance, you can also grab the posts comment as well by using the join method. So how you can do that is basically you can chain a method which is basically called join, and inside the join you will use post underscore comments, and the join is this will accept basically how you want to join by the table. So I will say posts dot id, and then the operator. So the operator would be equals to, and then the second is basically on which child table you want to perform the action. So I will say post underscore comments dot post underscore id. Okay, and lastly you want to basically also specify the type of the join. So by default this will basically inner join. You can also define the types as well, either it is left join, right join, or if you have any specific conditions. So now if I reload the page, I should be probably getting basically the comments with each post. Okay, so here it says like the column ID is now ambiguous. Now the reason is that because we are actually getting everything from posts and then the post underscore comments. By the way, I was basically mentioning that this uses the inner join, so here you can also see that this uses the inner join as well. Now what does this means by the ambiguous IDs? Basically we do have IDs, this ID and the post underscore comments ID in both our tables. So this is basically, this is considering this as an ambiguous. So what we can do is basically we can specify the columns that we are actually need to have. So all I can do is basically I can chain in a method called select, and inside the select I will use the method. So I will say posts dot static, get everything from posts table, and then from the post underscore comments I will only fetch the comments column. By doing so, now if I reload the page, I should probably get 20 records, and with each record if there are any comments, now you can see we are actually getting the comments here as well. Now if there are multiple comments associated with any posts, so the multiple comments will be appeared in the form of an array. All right, so that's a basically quick introduction which covers like almost all of the concepts in the query builder. So that's about it, and I will see you in the next one.